Okay, I was asked to do a video tutorial on these custom painted Fetty mugs, or a real Yeti, whatever. So the first thing you want to do is get your materials ready. So you have your tumbler, rubbing alcohol, sandpaper block. This is a fine to medium block. The blocks seem to last a little bit longer than the just sheets of sandpaper. So you'll have your stencil, whatever you want to use. I used transfer paper actually. You'll need something as a scraper. I like this little spatula thing. Painter's tape, that's a 1-inch. Paper towel. Ziploc bag, that's just like a sandwich bag. Respirator is very important. It's a 3M mask. And you'll see a headlamp in there if you have to work late at night like I do sometimes. I use the Krylon Max paint. It seems to go on pretty well and stay. I don't get a lot of cracking or bubbling. The Rust-Oleum brand works just as well, and they seem to have a wider variety of colors, at least at my store. That's the spray glitter that I use. It comes in a couple different colors. And that's the triple thick clear glaze that I use. So the first step is to tape off the areas of your tumbler that you don't want to paint. I always do the bottom. I've seen people leave the bottom free to paint. That's also fine. You just want to make sure that you line it up with the steam pretty well so that you have a nice clean line. And press it down really well so you don't get any leaks. I also put a little bit of paint tape on the top just to kind of keep it clean. So next you'll want to put a layer of tape around the top edge. This is just kind of protect the drinking surface. Kind of helps paint not get too close to where people are going to have their mouths, since this is not food safe spray paint. I also do use a FDA approved 2-part epoxy over the entire cup, but this is just kind of an added measure. And then so I don't get any tape just right on that rim, when I'm moving the cup around, I put just the ugly layer of tape all the way around. Just kind of protects it just a little bit. So next I put the lid in a Ziploc bag. And then I just put the lid and the bag down into the cup. This just keeps paint fumes or overspray from getting into the cup at all. The next thing I do is I take my sandpaper block and I just very lightly go over the whole surface of the cup. This helps paint stick a little bit better and it won't slide off on you. And I use the fine side. And I also make sure to do this after I tape so that there's no weird scratchy lines near the top. Try to get in all the little grooves, and especially around where the change in diameter. The next step is to take rubbing alcohol and a paper towel, and you just want to go over the whole surface of the cup really well. It gets all of the particles of your cup that you sanded off out of the way, and it also removes any oil that might be on the cup from your hands. You can see that there's a lot of residue from the cup. You want to let that completely dry before you put your stencil on. This is my contact paper transfer tape stencil. It seems to work pretty well for me, even on pretty intricate designs. And it's cheap, that's why I use it. So you want to line up your stencil where you want it on the cup. Take your time on this. You want to make sure it's straight, and be sure to remember you do have that 1 inch on the top. Rub it down really well. I don't use the scraper for this. It seems like it tears a little. And then just very lightly go over just the design with the scraper. I don't go over the whole thing with the big spatula scraper. So then you just very, very slowly pull off your transfer tape. The contact paper is a little bit more difficult to put on than a traditional vinyl, and it sticks a little bit more to your transfer, but the good thing is that it doesn't leave behind a residue when you pull off your stencil later, which is one of the drawbacks of using a vinyl. So you just kind of press it down so you make sure you're not getting any bleed through the edges of the tape. And then I do one more pass of rubbing alcohol just to get off any of the oils that come off on your hands before you paint. It just helps the paint stick better. And it gets off any little extra bits of the cup that you have sanded. You just have to make sure not to rub over your stencil too much. Let it completely dry, and then you're ready to paint. Shake up your paint very well, swirl it around, it mixes up the paint on the bottom. I do both cans first really, really well. It's important to wear a respirator when you're painting. You don't want to breathe in those fumes. So in wide sweeping arcs, go over the first coat of paint, and I put very light layers on. I see a lot of people post that they have runs or drips or bubbles, and that's because it's going on too thick too fast, and it's not being allowed to dry. So here I'm doing a white on the top, and I'll do a black on the bottom, so I just kind of go over the whole surface once. And then I do my other color again, wide arcs, and don't get too close. It'll put it on way too thick. And it's okay to see some of the cup through the paint at this point, because you will do another layer of paint. So don't worry about trying to completely cover it in one pass. So that's completely dried, and now I'm adding my second layer of paint on. And you can see that you're getting some overspray, that's fine. And as you can see, the more layers you put on, the more color you can see, and the less cup color you can see coming through. I also try to let each color dry a little bit before I put on the other color, just to avoid any runs. And you want that overlap of color, that's how you get the ombre look. So then, because it's such a light color, I just kind of go over that white one more time. And this time I try to be pretty careful about where I have that final line. I do want a little bit of overspray, but I don't want too much. If you're glittering these cups, the glitter is pretty forgiving, and it'll help hide some of the overspray also. See there, it's the overspray right in the middle there, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can make it, a little less by holding something up in front of it, and then you can kind of protect from a little bit of that overspray. Or you can just wing it. You don't have to use anything as a guide if you're confident in your spraying. So if you saw, there's 3 layers on this. I either do 2 or 3, it just kind of depends. So I let my cup dry completely. Some people don't. That's fine. You can let it just set. I've noticed that whenever I don't let it dry completely, I have some issues trying to get the stencil off without damaging the surrounding paint. So take some tweezers if you want, and you can get some of the small little detailed areas, and you don't worry about smudging. You just want to be careful not to over scrape. If you have any bleed through on your stencil, you can go through with the tweezers and kind of clean that up. So this is the glitter. I don't go too crazy on the glitter per pass. I think it makes it kind of gummy. So I just put a very light layer on. You can add as much glitter as you want. I would just let it dry about 10 minutes in between coats. After that's completely dry, I wait about an hour. I go over it with the clear coat spray. You can put this on a little bit more thick than the paint. That's fine. I do 2 layers of that. And then I let that dry at least 4 hours, if not more, before I bring it inside. Now you just take your tape off. And you'll have that nice line. So take the tape off the bottom. And you have your nice, clean, completed design. Clean lines. You can also put a 2-part epoxy over this if you'd like. It takes away some of the grittiness and adds a nice shine to it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can post them below. Contact me directly. This is just the way I do it. There are many other ways you can do this. Infinite color possibilities. You can spray color under the stencil, let it dry, and then paint over the top. You can put a vinyl decal over the 2-part epoxy when it's all done and dried and painted. So there's many ways to do it. This is just my method. I hope this was helpful.